Hello world. It's Thursday the 28th of January and we're looking at soaring forecast for Worcester for tomorrow, Friday the 29th January 2021. Let's start off just looking at the SKUT for Worcester. We see we've got an inversion at 5,500 feet. Temperatures up to about 29 degrees. The wind is straight from the west, but it's not very strong. Probably only 5 knots or so. And by 5 o'clock, you see some wind coming in from the northwest actually, but it's messing up this convection slightly, killing it off. Inversion is still nearly 7,000 feet now. So let's have a look at that wind. This is 2 o'clock. We can see we've got basically a southwesterly flow. The Breda River valleys in the wind shadow again, behind the front ridge, the Langeberg, the Witzenberg, Cederberg, front ridge, all got windward facing slopes, which is nice, but the wind speed, you can see a lot of this is actually 10 knots or even a little bit slower, touching 12 knots in the corners where the wind speed picks up. So not very strong. Zooming out, you can see the same down to the east, but the speeds are, a lot of that's 8 to 10 knots. By 5 o'clock, the wind speed's picking up. We get this coastal wind gushing in over the Cape Flats. It's spurting through the Villiersdorp Valley into the Worcester and the Breda River Valley, through the gaps in the Ruffieshorner End, coming around the far end of the Ruffieshorner End mountains, and from the northwest, that's the northwest wind we were seeing at Worcester. It's coastal wind coming in from Bainscliffe. Zooming out, you see we still got quite a nice southerly flow onto the Langeberg, past Swellendam, and still some flow onto the northern ridges, although around Porterville it's getting a bit southerly again. Cloud, well, there isn't much. Just a few smidgens of cloud, but nothing to trouble us. So we look at the height of the convective layer, the height of a critical updraft strength. You can see in the Breda River Valley it's getting up to about 5,500, 6,000 feet, but lower around Tulbach, 4,000, and at Porterville, out to the east it looks a bit better. Let's zoom out. You can see around Swellendam here it's about 5,000 feet. One thing you do notice, if you look carefully at these, you'll see that the height of the thermal layer goes up almost in sync with the height of the physical ground contours. So basically it's where the higher ground is, the higher the thermals are. And it follows as you go up the ridges as well. At 5 o'clock, you see we've got some dead areas now where that wind was spurting into the Breda River Valley. But we've also got some quite strong areas here. This looks like convergence, for where that wind has been pushing in from every direction, and what's left behind has to go up. So it's convergence about 5, touching 6,000 feet in places. Zooming out, we can still see at 5 o'clock at Swellendam, best part of 4 to 5,000 feet out here. So yeah, still looking quite good. You can see that convergence even shows up on the low resolution maps. Out to the east, it's quite dead in the valleys again. Let's look at the next section. want to see what our task options are for tomorrow. I'll look first going east. That's Robertson. The wind speed's very low, but otherwise convection looks quite nice and up to 6,000 feet. The wind's in the right direction. Well, it's southwest, going a bit westerly as you climb up. But 5 o'clock, something is messing around with the convection a bit, but the basic airflow is still there, so you'll still get thermic air flowing up the ridges. Wind coming now in from the southeast from that wind spurting in. Swellendam looks good, 5,000 feet at 2 o'clock. Wind is quite light, but a useful direction. And at 5 o'clock it's still there. The wind's gone quite southerly and it's picking up a bit in strength. And this convection is still working to 5,500, 6,000 feet. Looking to the north, Tulbach is a bit lower. Wind slightly stronger onto the Witzenberg, but still below 10 knots. 5 o'clock, the wind is there. It's that gusting coastal wind. It's still about 4,500 feet. Porterville, just over 4,000 feet. Winds southerly to southwesterly, maybe 10 knots. Wind speed picks up, but it goes a bit more southerly, still just over 4,000 feet. So just looking at the ridges and the boundary layer maximum up-down motion, this is basically indicates where the convergence is along the ridges. You can see they're all showing some lift, but if we look at the color of these contours, you see a lot of it is around maybe 1.75 meters touching 2 meters. Whereas if I compare that, that's today's chart, and you flew today, and you can see the same chart shows these same ridges, but there's a lot more orange in them, and that orange is now getting up to about 2 meters. So definitely the ridge lift tomorrow looks to be slightly slower than it was today. Zooming out, the same, but these ridges are showing up, but they're quite faint. 5 o'clock, we can see the convergence lines, and there's obviously sink in the lead faces, but it's still working quite nicely out here at Swellendam at 5 o'clock. So that's quite nice. Just looking at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning at Worcester, so 24 degrees, 25, and thermic still maybe 3,500 feet. Wind speed's quite low, so I don't see that we'll be launching too early tomorrow morning. And just stepping out a bit, this is for Saturday, and that's actually looking quite nice. The wind speeds are still low, but it's a lot of convection there, and that will provide quite a lot of energy to keep things going. Just looking at the winds for Saturday, you see they're all southwest again, and most of the ridges are looking like they've got a windward face, which is nice. And also just zooming out on Saturday, that's at 5 o'clock, and we've got some cloud, high cloud, 6,500, 7,000 feet at Swellendam at 5 o'clock. So that might be quite a nice place to be coming home from at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So basically your task options today, you can go east or you can go north. It's just going to be a little bit slower than it was today. And I don't know if today's weather in reality was slower than the forecast that I gave last night. It might have been, judging by the traces. If it was, then today's forecast is slower than last night's forecast, and tomorrow's flying is likely to be slower again than today's flying. The east looks quite good. It's not this for Saturday, but it still looks quite nice in the east on Friday. So don't go home yet. There's still some flying tomorrow and even more on Saturday. Please fly carefully and have fun.